Welcome back, everyone, to part 6 of our Court Chronicles series detailing the 73 flights, 46 countries Cameron Mofid traveled to during his year-long journey. Of course, joining me to tell his story is Cameron Mofid. Cameron, we pick up our story now with a little bit of a break in the action. July 4th weekend, you get a weekend to yourself, I believe, with your friends. When you're traveling this much, again, 73 flights, 46 countries, it's got to be great to have a weekend off. But just in general, this portion of your journey, before we get into the details, tell our listeners a little bit about how you were feeling.
Yeah, I was a little bit exhausted after getting back from Mexico. To be honest, I think I got back a few days before July 4th. But as always, it kind of goes and it took a few days, and I think I'm not going to travel for months. And then, a week later, I'm itching and ready to get out there again. So yeah, it was great to spend July 4th in Miami. Took a boat around with some of my close friends. So that was really relaxing. But again, by that point in time, I was definitely ready to go on another adventure for sure.
Yeah, it's like when someone says they're never going to drink again after a rough night out, right? You're like, I swear I'm never going to be flying. I will never go to another country. Thankfully for us, you did not keep that promise as your journey continues. And again, you talked a little bit about July 4th weekend, but I know from here, I believe we begin the Denmark portion of your trip.
Yeah, we do. So I was trying to figure out where I wanted to go. The Newport ATP was an option. I'd been there the year prior and actually was with Remkumar when he made the finals of the 250 there. So I decided to change it up. I had a friend living in Båstad, Sweden, and I knew a couple of players in the doubles draw, Jamie Sarantani and Trent Huey. So I said, let's go for it. I took a flight to Copenhagen. I spent just one night there, woke up early in the morning, saw the sights, walked around, I think around 5 in the morning. And that was really cool to see the culture of that country. The history goes back many, many centuries. And took a train over to Båstad, which was literally just through the countryside, and wound up in Angelom, which is a small village just south of Båstad. And I booked a hotel in kind of like a barn in the woods. And I remember I was lugging my 50-pound suitcase, and I got off at the wrong stop, and there wasn't another bus coming for like an hour and a half. So I walked quite a bit to this barn hotel. Then I realized pretty immediately that getting from there to the tournament in Båstad was about a 2-hour commute each way by foot, bus, and foot again. So I kind of pleaded with some of my friends. I had a friend in the tennis academy from ASC who was staying there, and he's Swedish, and they had a place there. And he very generously offered to host me for a few days in his barn, which was overlooking all of Båstad. And so I wound up staying there for a few days and enjoying the tennis for sure.
Mm-hmm. And I believe it is your friend Nico who, these are all details you can read, by the way, by going to check out Cameron's memoir on our website, crackrackets.com. Of course, we are releasing each segment of the memoir with the corresponding video, which you can all find, as you see now, on our Cracked Rackets YouTube channel. In these videos, we have the opportunity to share some of the photos, some of the videos from Cameron's journey. And of course, we also have the chance to have our super producer, Wyatt, mix in a couple of fun things as well. I have to ask from the tennis perspective. And this once again shows no matter where you are in the tennis community, it's widespread. No matter what portion of the globe you choose to travel to, you can find some element of the tennis community there. You reach out to Trent Huey. You say, hey, Trent, I'm in town. Do you mind if I pop by? He says yes. I have to imagine that was a fun experience for you. And then again, to get to stay with someone who played at the University of Tampa, just a small manifestation of the college tennis community across the globe as well. That's got to be so awesome.
Yeah, it was really cool. I actually was on the train from Copenhagen to Angelom when I emailed Tret, or I heard back, I guess, from him. And so I didn't know. I was going to figure it out either way. But I got an email from him saying, yep, I'll sign you in for a credential, which was really cool. So I picked up my credential there. And on the tennis side of things, one thing that's really cool, and I'm sure you've noticed a bit, but the Master Series, the 1,000 tournaments, the slams for sure, and the 500s to some degree, but the 250s, the players are a little bit more relaxed and things are a little bit more fun. So, not to say that they weren't all putting in their best effort, but after they lost, they definitely had a lot of fun. So I got to see, the Ymer brothers play on court, and obviously in Scandinavia, they had the huge crowd support from the Swedish. And, after the players kind of lost, Christian Guerin, he was the 1 seed. I saw him out. He had definitely a great night. He was having a lot of fun. I think Thiago Monteiro was there. The Ymer brothers were out. So everyone was having a great time, and really cool. The tournament was so scenic, so beautiful. Definitely one of my favorite tournaments that I've been to.
Yeah, and I want you to tell us a little bit more about the scenery there, but also if you could expand on that, because I do think that is a really interesting point. When you go to these challengers, these futures, or these 250 events, there is a more intimate feeling, right? It doesn't have the pageantry of maybe a grand slam, but those events are the bread and butter. Those events are where I think that one could argue bang for your buck. You might actually have more fun as a tennis fan. Do you think that's fair?
100% more fun. I even at this point seek out those 250 tournaments and the challengers because it's so intimate. You get to meet so many more people. Everyone's still focused and training, but at the same time, it's not as hostile, so to say. The players' parties were a lot of fun. The tournament was beautiful. Everyone was relaxed, having drinks here and there. The tournament really overlooks the North Sea, I think it is. So it was just so beautiful. And actually, my final night, I had a flight early in the morning at around 7, and I stayed out until 4 because the sun rises there so early because of its position in the northern hemisphere. So I met actually one of my friends, Eric, who would later come and visit me in Miami. But I was out early, and then the tournament transportation, actually, as a guest of Tret, picked me up from the barn and drove me to the hotel the next morning. Drove me to the train station. Sorry. So it was really, really awesome.
That just feels fitting. I just feel like that it goes right along with everything else we have seen in this journey. And again, you talked about the beauty of being in Sweden. You talked about the beauty, again, of just being at this event. But the journey continues. Where you headed next?
Yeah, to the party capital of the world, which is Ibiza. So after I get on this flight,
Just real quick, why can I get some sort of party sound effect here? Give me something funky.
Yeah, so David, who I believe we met in parts either 3 or part 3, I think it was, from Spain in the bar with Kuhan. He's a big party guy. He invited me over to Ibiza. He works for a tourism company that does boat chartering, etc. And so we make our way. He meets me there in Ibiza, and that was an absolute blast. Really, virtually no tennis. If there was a part of my travels that had no tennis, it would be this one. But yeah, we went to Formentera, which is the smallest of the Balearic Islands. We went to Elro, which was one of the world's most kind of scintillating and well-known parties. So unique. Felt almost like monsters coming to life, and we stayed out until 7 in the morning. So just being there and having a few days away from tennis. But then again, I met David through Kuhan from tennis. So everything kind of connects for me there. But yeah, it was just a blast to kind of let down my guard for a bit and have a lot of fun.
Yeah, just going to make a quick pitch here why everyone should read the memoir. And again, why you can have some fun here with some effects. But just to read from you, after an afternoon ambling along the pristine beaches, we stood in the center of Amnesia, one of the world's most miraculous nightclubs. In Amnesia, David and I were deep into the heart of Elro, the scintillating Barcelona-born music experience. The illusory environment produced inconceivable elements of the human imagination, thought to be sensorily unachievable. I mean, come on. If that's not getting you hooked, I don't know what will. Ibiza's got to be on a lot of people's lists of just a fun city to travel to. Now, of course, as you mentioned, not a lot of tennis at that moment, but I had to imagine that was a fun pit stop. Where are you going from there?
Yeah, so kind of the opposite. I went again to the countryside in northern Spain to Luarca. My roommate actually at one point at ASC, his grandparents are from there originally, and so he invited me. They have this beautiful house on the cliff overlooking the town. And so Caesar had actually hosted me for my internship in Delray Beach back in 2018, which was kind of how I got involved in the tennis world, to a more intimate degree. And so, yeah, it was beautiful. We went around the Bay of Biscay on his boat. I got to have a nice dinners with his family and go out into the town, and it just very, very intimate, really heartwarming experience there.
And it speaks to the fact that, again, the tennis community, it's widespread, it's loving. You're going to meet people at these tournaments. You're going to meet people at these various events who just share common interests with you, right? As you mentioned, I know, again, Sanchez Casal, I believe the academy you were referring to as your roommate, just again, we talked about that a little bit earlier, but right, I'm sure there are plenty, not just your immediate roommates, but plenty of people, whether it's the tournaments, and we've talked about them a lot in this story, that you stay connected with through the tennis community.
Yeah, a lot of times it's not necessarily even the players from these tournaments that you make the connections with, but just people you meet, tournament organizers, fans, or people you meet just in the cities and at bars and out. And just one thing I want to make clear is that everything I have, almost, as far as my friends, where I go to school, the community I have around me, kind of stems from tennis in one way or another. So just the theme of this memoir is kind of opening your heart to the world, and having that being reciprocated by the world around you. And I think my time in Luarca was pretty representative of that.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And then from there, I believe you travel. And again, it's another tie in with your tennis community. You go to visit a few more friends that you had met earlier in your journey.
Yeah. So when I had needed a place to stay, actually during this time, in and out of all of my travels, starting back in March before I went to Spain, actually starting in my internship in Delray Beach, I was hosted by a family, the Wojciks, Polish descent, but they decided to move to Belgium, and they started their own tennis academy, very intimate, with players from Germany, Colombia, Panama, some from the States, and they had a house, which was super cool. So they invited me over to Brussels. I stayed there. I did some sightseeing. Adil, who was the reason why I met all my friends from Rafa's academy, we met over in Mallorca, and he had hosted me there as well the year prior. He was playing a futures there that I didn't even really know about. So I hung out with him. I hit with him. I got a game off of him. We played a practice set. Very proudly took the 6-1 loss. He's unbelievable. And made my way over to Paris from Belgium.
Yeah, and again, of course, anytime someone goes to Paris, we have to talk about that, and we'll look at the images, the videos throughout this as well. But just to talk about the level of tennis, because I think this is something that's so often overlooked. Tennis, not the most popular sport in America, but it's the second most popular sport in the world, and you're going to go to these random places and just find incredible levels of tennis, right? I mean, you're in this remote city, whether it's in Germany, whether it's in Sweden, whether it's anywhere, you can find tennis players that can play.
Yeah, I mean, it's happened so many times that at this point I wouldn't even say it's a coincidence, but I'll just wind up in I don't want to say a random city, but a random city to some degree. And I'll have, a friend who I met a year before, and, at Futures or Challengers playing there. Someone is part of someone's team. And, I think Adil was the perfect kind of example of this. And so I remember we went to his Airbnb, and he tried to convince me to stay. And I wish I could have, but I really wanted to go to Paris because I was starting at in just a couple weeks. So I bought one of those like tourist duffel bags with like the world around it, threw a bunch of clothes in it, left my main suitcase in Brussels, and ran again in my flip-flops. I couldn't read the signage because it was in French. Barely made the 10:16, which is the last train over to Paris. It was, I think, one of the fastest trains in the world, very high speed. And woke up the next morning for my quintessential day in the center of Paris.
Yeah. Tu parles français? Non?
J'ai pu parler un peu de français, oui.
Oui, oui. Je parle un peu parce que je ne comprends pas. So I would be in the same situation as you, I suppose. But I have to ask because, again, every so often you just find some golden sentences. After indulging in artisan chocolates and waffles, we can just stop that sentence there. Tell me, did they live up to the hype?
Yeah, it was beautiful. Between Belgian and French chocolates, it doesn't really get much better. It might even beat the Swiss in that regard. But no, I mean it was so cool. I remember waking up in Paris. If there ever was like one quintessential day out of a rom com, the one I had. I woke up. I think I went to the Eiffel Tower. I didn't have a reservation, and I somehow finessed like cutting the line. I think a little bit, and I couldn't get an elevator ticket, so I had to walk up, which wasn't as bad as you'd think. But no, I went to the Eiffel Tower, walked to the Champs Elysees and the Arc de Triomphe, and then I made my way to the Louvre. I wanted to see the Mona Lisa because the Da Vinci Code is one of my favorite movies of all time. And I have to go to the Louvre. I have to go to the Louvre, and I couldn't get a ticket because they were booked out months in advance. It was the middle of summer, and there were these African ticket scalpers that were selling fake tickets, and obviously I knew they were fake. I think they tried to rely on the fact that people didn't really know. But because I knew and they were honest with me, they said, if you do it right and you can deceive the ticket checkers up front, you might get it. So I tried to blend in with a group of Chinese tourists who were
Like
wearing.
we all have tried. Sure, we've all been there.
Yeah, I kind of crouched down a little bit and tried to fit in, and that didn't go too well. So they kicked me out of line. I went back to the African guys, and I was like, guys, fuck. Pardon my French. But I just got kicked out of line, and I'm not going to see the Louvre. And they said, all right, there's one last thing that we can try. If you go under one rope, then go under another one, and then say that you're going to the gift shop and show them your ticket, 50-50 they scan it. And I was like, that doesn't sound like great odds, especially because I've already gotten kicked out once and they recognized my face. They said, that's your only choice. So I did it. I tried it. And she kind of looked like she was going to scan it for a second. And she just said, okay, go ahead. So I go in through the gift shop, go around, make my way to the Mona Lisa. We got quiet. And that was probably one of the coolest moments of my travels, even though it's, very touristy. I literally felt like Tom Hanks in that moment. So that was awesome.
No, that's perfect. That's what you're looking for. Yeah, I think you write in the memoir, it's like 674 steps to the top of the Eiffel Tower. I don't know if you've ever climbed the Great Wall of China. It was fairly similar. I mean, I think there might have been even more steps, and the differences, those steps are just not level. Like every step is a different size. One's a third, the other's the size of 7 steps. It's but I have to imagine, yeah, that's half of the fun. And then again, if you're not sneaking in, if you're not doing a little bit of deception in Paris, you're not getting the full Parisian experience, right? So I feel like you're doubling down there. But again, after that, the journey doesn't stop. You get to your opportunity to be in Paris. Where are you going next?
Yeah, so I take a morning train to Luxembourg, and I actually just wanted to stop there. I knew there wasn't maybe tons to do, but I stayed there for just a few hours with my duffel bag with the clothes, and kind of just meandered the cobblestone streets, and very relaxing. I went to a nice cave, and I made my way to Koblenz, which is in Germany, and I took a train to Bonn, which is a very kind of suburb of Cologne, Germany. I had a friend who I met in Rafa's Academy, who I hadn't seen in years, and I knew he lived there, right on the border of Germany. Max, who was my other German friend from ASC, met me in Koblenz. We took the train to Bonn. I just have this kind of vision of walking down these empty streets close to midnight in Bonn. We stayed there for a night, and then we went to Cologne in the morning. We did our sightseeing. I got to see the kind of beautiful Rhine River. The Gothic architecture was very cool. The double-spired church. And lastly, we went to Amsterdam, where we had our fun time for sure. It was a lot of hard partying and still sightseeing at the same time. But that was kind of the end of my world travels pre starting at UM.
So then I'll ask the questions I always ask here at the end of these parts. How would you compare this portion of your journey to the rest of your trip? B, again, when you're looking back at the highlights, give me your top moment from this part, the thing you'll remember the most from this part of your journey.
From this part, it's a tie between my time in Bolstad in that ATP tournament, going out in the nights to Pepe's Bodega, which is the club there that I wrote about, and just meeting new people, and then I would also have to say the Mona Lisa moment, which was, I still can't believe I got in there with, deceived the most I guess strict and locked down museum in the world at the Louvre. So that was a story I'll have to tell for a while.